Welcome back to the Crack the Code podcast. So excited today to be talking to you about EFT. So if you haven't heard about that, stay tuned. We've got with us today Sophie St. Pierre, who is a master EFT tapping practitioner and trainer, a trauma specialist, and psychic healer. She became an advanced EFT practitioner in 2011. And in 2017, she opened her own healing academy, the Fifth Ray Healing Academy, specializing in trauma. She noticed that most physical and emotional ailments, chronic illnesses, lack of happiness, lack of joy and fulfillment seem to come from unhealed trauma in our past. So she now trains individuals to become EFT tapping practitioners, as well as offering some other transformational courses. So welcome today, Sophie.
Oh my God, thank you for having me here. I'm so happy. I
Yeah.
love EFT, so any chance I can get to talk about it is perfect.
Yeah, I know. I use it sometimes too. It's so interesting how that energy just shifts by just doing those little tapping. And I mean, I sometimes do it with my whole hands, and I know some people just do it with one finger. It all still works. So it's really, really interesting to look at. But just before we kind of get into your story and how you got into it, people might be wondering, oh, where are you from? Because they're hearing that accent.
I'm originally from Montreal. So it's interesting. I say now I have two homes because I've been in Vancouver, BC now for more than half my life. So I'm originally from Montreal and I've been living in BC for 20 something years. So I have two homes.
Oh yeah, that's awesome on both coasts. I know, and it's beautiful in Quebec as well. I know my husband and I did a road trip back there not that many years ago because I had always wanted to drive across Canada because I'd never been from BC across Canada. Everyone complains that the prairies are so boring, but I really enjoyed that drive.
I did it this summer. It was amazing. I drove from Vancouver to Montreal to see my mom and back from Montreal to Vancouver. I called it my driving pilgrimage. So it was awesome. I loved
Yeah.
it. I think Canada is so pretty. Everything is so pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh yeah, so we guess we should talk about something else now too. Yeah. Yeah. So people, if you're not familiar with EFT and tapping, we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into it. But everyone always has a story about why they do what they do. Usually it's from something that's happened to them in their past. And so maybe you can start us back with a little story about how Sophie got to where she is today.
For me, it started with so I I love everything, and in university I did so many different programs. I just wanted to touch everything. So I did art, I did business, I did kinesiology, I did psychology, and then I moved to Vancouver, and then I noticed that I was not happy. So I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was one of those late comers and or knowing late in life. And then what happened is I love my boys. I had two boys in Vancouver. I was with my partner and I was just feeling so miserable, so sad. I just knew I loved my boys, but I didn't love me. I didn't love my life. I didn't know what to do about it. So I remember going down the stairs, which is close to my house, and then just crying so much. And it was late at night. Nobody knew. My kids were sleeping, and I just asked, I need help. And I didn't want to go the Western route, if we want to call it that. Like I didn't want drugs or medicine or numbing myself out. I just wanted something that would help me figure out what the heck is going on. Why am I so unhappy? And then I was talking to a friend. I used to sell art, and my art used to be in galleries, paintings and stuff. And uh, the creator of the gallery actually was an EFT practitioner, like of all things. And I was talking to her about how I felt, and she said, "Well, I have something for you. I can do EFT." I'm like, I don't know what that is, but okay. Like right now, I'm desperate, just whatever. So I remember she came in my living room and did a small session. It was super cheap. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what you did, but that's it. And it's like, the universe opened up. I'm like, yay, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. I don't know what that was. So within a year, I went from not knowing EFT to becoming a practitioner. And then things from there, like massive journey.
Yeah, that's so unreal. It is amazing. And there's so many different modalities out there. As the listeners, if you're out there and are feeling depressed or got a lot of anxiousness around whatever's going on, look for alternatives if you're not feeling like you're getting what you need, if you've gone to the doctor, because there are so many alternatives out there and different options. So don't just give up and think that, there isn't anything that's going to work with you. And then maybe, Sophie, you can go into a little bit about what really is EFT and tapping for the people out there that have never heard of it before.
Okay. Well, I really love what you said, Cora. I believe that we're amazing and our inner wisdom and our bodies can heal. I also believe that sometimes we need the Western medicine aspect of things. And just like the code or the emotional code that you practice, we can combine more than one modality to support ourselves in our journey. It doesn't mean that it has to be one fits all. I think sometimes we're going to need other things, which I think is beautiful. EFT, what I love about it, so if you think about it, we're taking two fingers, like two or fingertips, could be one or two, and we're tapping on the end points of meridians. For example, for those of you that don't know the points, you imagine or take two fingers and then you put them on the inside of the eyebrow and you gently tap on the inside of the eyebrow. That's one point. Another point is on the corner side of your eye, on the outside of the eye. Another point, for example, is under the eye point, under the eye, on the cheekbone. So let's say you're gently tapping with two fingers on your cheekbone, right underneath your eye. What you're doing is you're sending a message through your body's connective tissue to the area of the brain that governs your stress response in the body, which is your fight flight response. And you're telling your brain, it's going to be okay. I'm going to process the emotion that's coming up right now and in a beautiful, kind way and see what's up. And then it helps reduce stress. It helps get you back in alignment, really understanding what's happening for you and processing the emotion. EFT, the letters stands from Emotional Freedom Technique, which was created by Gary Craig. I believe it's in 1980s. So it's been around for a bit now, which is good. Mm-hmm. And it's even talked about in the U.S. Psychological Association as a great way to support veterans or people with PTSD. So it's starting to have a really good understanding like the science behind it and how it can help us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then with some of them, I know I've done it some myself. I use sometimes the Tapping Solution app and do some of their programs. They do it like a guided meditation almost because they tell you where to tap and how to do it. Does it matter if you're talking? Like, does that part of the process?
So there's something that happens when you talk out loud with your brain. So let's say you need to process something important or really emotional. I always suggest to my clients and my students, you need to tap out and say the words out loud. That being said, there's different ways you can use tapping in your daily life that requires no words. So it could be just tapping on the points or even one point while you're breathing. So what you're doing is you're breathing, by breathing and tapping, you're bringing your consciousness back to present moment, which will help you process whatever's going on for you in your life, whether it's overwhelm, stress, something emotional, you got scared. By bringing you back to presence with the tapping, with words or without, then you could process it and then figure out what to do next from within instead of trying from the outside, which then doesn't help you.
Yeah.
You have to bring yourself back in, then you can figure out what else to do.
Sure. And does it matter, like, if you're doing that, if you do all the points, or is it helpful to do more points? I know, and there's like doing the collarbone and under your arm and on top of your head, like there's more points that they, and the tapping solution anyways, they go through all the steps.
Yeah.
Is that part of it, like picking up different points?
So what I say in order to best understand it is know why you're using EFT. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're using EFT because you're stressed out, or I'm going to use overwhelmed because everybody gets overwhelmed. We all have those tendencies. So let's say you're overwhelmed, you don't know what to do. There's so much on your plate. You could use one point. It could be the collarbone point, which is right underneath the bone, on the outside with the soft area. So right underneath your collarbone in the softer spot. So you gently tap on, I use both hands. So I tap on underneath both of my collarbone point, and I breathe in and out. And then that could be enough to move the overwhelm, so that what's going to happen, and you're going to know if this worked for you, is because for me, I start to make my list. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it all starts to make sense. Some people, let's say there's a lot of overwhelm. Then you could use the way the tapping solution suggests, where you go on all the points and then you speak out loud. So what that would look like or sound like is, so right now I'm tapping, I'm going to call the points as I go to do a little bit of a demo, if that's okay, Cora.
Yeah, but just remember, some of them aren't going to be able to see anything on
so
audio.
that's why I'm going to call them out. So I'm tapping on the side of the hand, which is one of the first points, and it's like the karate chop, the softer part of your hand. So I'm tapping there, and then I'm tapping on the top of the head gently with my little fingers. And then I'm going between the eyebrow and the beginning of the eyebrow inside, and I'm gently tapping, and then side of the eye in the corner, gently tapping. And then underneath the eye, underneath the eye on the cheekbone. And the next point we didn't talk about yet is underneath the nose, right in the crease, in the lip, between the lip and the nose. And the next point is the chin in the crease. And then the collarbone point, we talked about that, which is underneath the bone. Under the arms, for ladies, it's where the bra strap is. And for gentlemen, it's about 4 inches below the armpit. And then the last point is the wrist point. So you can experience that with me. And then what I would do, let's say I'm really overwhelmed and tapping on one point, it feels like I need more. I need to move that energy. So I'm going to start with the side of the hand, and I'm going to say out loud, oh my God, top of the head, I'm overwhelmed. Between the eyes, oh my good God, I'm so overwhelmed. Side of the eyes, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. Under the eyes, oh, I can't breathe. Usually for me, if I'm overwhelmed, I can't breathe. So underneath the eyes, under the nose, I can't breathe, or I don't know what to do. Chin point, there's so much on my plate today. Collarbone point, I can't breathe. I don't know what to do. I'm so overwhelmed. Under the arm where the bra strap is, I'm so overwhelmed. And then wrist point, I'm so overwhelmed. And then sometimes I might need to do that sequence 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Sometimes one time is enough. And so these are the 2 ways you could use EFT to support you get back to center and out of that state that you were in emotionally.
Yeah. And it's interesting how quickly you can feel the energy moving around when you use those points. And for everyone that's listening, I do have a YouTube channel as well. So you can check out the video if you want to watch what Sophie was doing. But I think you can sort of get the idea anyways from here. So I am curious though, Sophie, on your bio, you were saying that you're specializing in trauma, because I know EFT can be used for a lot of different things. Maybe you can give us some background on why specifically you want to work with trauma.
I started the first couple years of my practice, like 8 years, couple years, it's 8 years, a long time. So the first 8 years of my practice was focusing, really my specialty was chronic illnesses and really complex issues like PTSD, anxiety disorders, these type of things. And one of the things that I've noticed, usually illnesses, chronic illnesses, and these types of things comes from a traumatic experience. So a lot of the time we would go back to things that happened in their past that was not yet healed, that contributed to them experiencing in their physical form chronic illness or PTSD or stress or anxiety disorders. So, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about is the transformation that you see from somebody that heals something that was deeply following them. So some people had trauma that happened in their childhood and they carried that for like, I'm getting all emotional right now, and they carry that with them for like 15, 20 years. And then to see, like, I'm getting goosebumps as well, and to see the transformation after they healed that moment in time, it's just such a phenomenal things to experience, and for them to feel the freedom and how their lives gets transformed. So that's why, like, I work on trauma, and I help my students really get really skillful at holding that space for someone to be able to do such a deep healing in a really compassionate and kind way, because when you have a trauma that you experienced in your childhood, it has a significant impact on you, and you need somebody that's skillful to be able to hold that space and help you heal it permanently and in a beautiful, compassionate way.
Yeah. And that's so important. It's unfortunate. So many of us are waiting till we get later in life to finally be dealing with our crap.
Or we try to put it under the rug
Yeah.
and shove it down, but what happens is just surfaces and
Yeah.
in different ways. And for my clients, said would surface with chronic illnesses or aches and pains, and right.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of that too. And same, or food things, food cravings, or issues around food and all that stuff
Addictions.
generally comes back from something from when you were an infant or even in the womb. Like, you have no hope. It was in there way before you were even a thing.
Well, see, that one of the things that's been happening in the last 2 years, and I'm sure you've seen that also in your practice. I've worked a lot with EFT also on helping people heal or release ancestral trauma, so that they carry it within their genes or energetic field. So that's been fascinating, and how that also changes their view and how their world just gets transformed. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is amazing every time I do a session with somebody and I, give them an age of when this emotion was trapped, and they just look at me like, "What? Like, are you a magician? Like, how do you even know that?" And I don't even know that. So, yeah, it's really, really, really interesting. So, just curious if you have a story that you could share, like what sort of one of your best cases that you could share, something that happened, one of your clients.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give you like a couple. So one of them came to me. She's like, I'm trying to like heal and manifest my bathroom, and I'm having issues with the board of directors and all that. And so one of the things we healed was how she had a hard time expressing herself, especially with authority figures. And by healing herself and how she presents herself and feeling confident in how she expresses her voice, she was able to remove all the blocks and get the bathroom she wanted. So this is really 3D physical something.
Yeah.
So for her, it was based on childhood, but it really, she was like, Sophie, was like magical. Like, I showed up differently. They responded to me differently. So that was beautiful. I've worked a lot with people that have like sexual abuse or these type of abuse. So these were the biggest. So sometimes it's the biggest things that you see the transformation is huge, because it's such a big trauma. So many people we were working on their voice and being able to express themselves and get the support they didn't get in their past.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so there's a lot of different different
yeah.
cases.
And I mean, traumas around, yeah, abuse and all of that stuff. I mean, I feel like as I get older, almost everybody I know had some of that experience growing up.
We all
It's
did.
yeah,
And
in
if you
some
think
form.
about 2020 and what happened, that's something that's why I'm really passionate about trauma, because I don't think people realize that there's no such thing as big T trauma or small T trauma. It's how your body responds to an event that was intense for you.
Yeah.
And then we judge it, and then we think, oh no, that shouldn't be a big deal, but your body's responding as if it is. then let's honor that, and let's honor that it is a big deal for you, and process it in a beautiful way so that that can be actually released and you can move forward. And then I think 2020 was a wake-up call for a lot of people. There was more people, experts, talking about trauma and the impact it has. Like Gabriel Mate came back with a book called The New Normal, the myth of the normal, which is about trauma as well. So I'm so happy to see that there's more communication about trauma and how it's normal and you're not broken. That beautiful wisdom is all there. Let's just remove the baggage that got on top of you.
Yeah. Well, and with everything, especially emotions, we're not trained how to deal with them as we're growing up. So whether it's just sort of regular sort of emotions or something more traumatic, we don't really know how to deal with them. So it's great that there's modalities like this to help us get through them and get past them and move on from there. So I just want to thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sophie, and sharing with us about this amazing technique and how it works. And what's the best way for people to get in touch if they want to know some more about what you're doing?
I'm on Instagram. It's under the Fifth Ray Healing Academy. That's the handle tag, which is 5TH Ray Healing Academy. I'm also on Facebook. I have a private Facebook group about tapping. It's Shine Self-Empowerment and Shining Brightly. So you can find it easily. Or the Fifth Ray Healing Academy. I'm also on Facebook.
Awesome. So again, for everybody, that all that information will be in the show notes. If you are looking for something to do, maybe you need some trauma that needs healing. If you were thinking, now that you've heard what Sophie's been talking about, maybe you're going to have an epiphany like Sophie and think, that's what I want to do when I grow up, because I know I'm just figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. Reach out to Sophie because it's never too late.